Story 1. The Girl at the End of the Hall. It happened during my sophomore year of high school, in a small suburban town just outside of Portland, Oregon. My best friend, Lily, had just moved into a new house, one of those big, old American homes with narrow hallways, creaky wooden floors, and doors that never seemed to close all the way. Her parents thought it had character. I thought it looked haunted. One Friday night, Lily invited a few of us over for a sleepover to break in the new place. We spent the evening doing the usual pizza, TikToks, and horror movies we swore wouldn't scare us. Around midnight, the lights were dim, the air felt heavy, and we started telling ghost stories. That's when it started. Somewhere above us, we heard its slow, steady footsteps upstairs. Not like the random pops or creaks of an old house. This sounded human. Step, pause, ... step. Pause. We all froze. Lily's parents were out celebrating their anniversary, and her little brother was staying at a friend's house. So, who was walking upstairs? Probably the house settling, I said, trying to sound calm, but the next sound made my blood run cold. Creak, creak, creak. The floorboards moaned again, this time closer to the staircase. I grabbed a flashlight from the kitchen counter and aimed it at the steps. Nothing, just the long shadow of the railing stretching into darkness. Trying to shake it off, we laughed nervously and went back to our snacks. 10 minutes later, Lily's golden retriever, Max, jumped up and started barking. Low and sharp, staring directly toward the hallway that led to the bedrooms upstairs. His fur was standing straight up. Then we saw her, a girl, maybe 10 years old, standing silently at the end of the hallway. Her skin was pale, almost gray, and her white nightgown looked decades old. Her hair hung wet against her face, and her head tilted slightly to one side, like her neck couldn't support it. Her eyes were hollow, empty. For a second, we couldn't move. No one screamed, no one breathed. The flashlight flickered once, and she was gone. That was enough. We bolted out the front door, barefoot, clutching our blankets and phones, and spent the rest of the night in the driveway until Lily's parents came home around 3 a.m. When we told them what we'd seen, her mom went pale. She didn't say much, just kept glancing toward the staircase. The next morning, Lily's dad finally told us the truth. The house's previous owners had a daughter. She died 10 years ago. She fell down those exact stairs, the ones that creaked that night. And ever since then, neighbors claimed they'd sometimes see a little girl standing at the end of the hallway window, just watching. Story 2. The Whispering Closet. It happened during my freshman year of college, in one of those old dorm buildings on the edge of campus at the University of Michigan. You know the kind, peeling paint on the walls, narrow hallways that echo every footstep, and that strange, musty smell that never seems to leave, no matter how often the janitors clean. My roommate, Jenna, and I had decided to have a small sleepover in her dorm room, just the two of us. Popcorn, movies, and our phones. It was late fall, and the wind outside rattled the windows of the building, making it feel even colder than it really was. After scrolling through Instagram and watching a couple of cheesy horror flicks, we turned off all the lights. The dorm room plunged into darkness, except for the dim glow of our phones. We started sharing ghost stories we'd read online, laughing nervously to mask the growing unease in the room. That's when it began. At first, it was subtle. A soft whisper, so faint we almost missed it, coming from Jenna's closet. Probably just the wind, I said, trying to convince both myself and her. But the whisper came again, clearer, deliberate, almost teasing. Come closer. Jenna froze. Her eyes went wide, her pale face illuminated by the glow of her phone. I think it's just the heating vent, she whispered back, but even as she spoke, I could see the color drain from her cheeks. Then it happened. The closet door, the plain, old wooden one, creaked open, just an inch, slowly, almost deliberately. No one touched it. A cold draft spilled into the room, carrying a faint, sweet smell, like wilted flowers mixed with dust. My stomach twisted. It was the kind of smell you only notice in old houses or in horror movies. We laughed nervously, trying to convince ourselves it was some kind of prank or trick of our imagination. But then the whisper came again, louder this time. "Come closer, come closer." My heart pounded. I grabbed my phone and flicked on the flashlight, pointing it directly into the closet. Nothing, completely empty. But that's when I noticed it. Faint scratches along the inside of the doorframe, tiny like fingernails, clawing at the wood. They were fresh, sharp, and almost glowing in the flashlight's beam. Before I could react, the closet door slammed shut on its own, hard enough to shake the floorboards. The room went completely silent. Too silent. We didn't sleep that night. Instead, we huddled together on her bed, clutching blankets and phones like shields, listening to the occasional whisper that now seemed to float from every corner of the room, the closet, the walls, even the ceiling. By morning, the scratches were gone. The closet looked completely normal, as if nothing had happened. But Jenna and I both knew the truth. Something had been there. Years later, Jenna confessed she still wakes up at night, hearing soft whispers from her old dorm closet. And no one ever stayed in that room for more than a few months. Most students ended up moving out early, claiming they just didn't feel right there. Even now, when I walk past the old dorm building on campus, I can't help but glance at that hallway and feel that same chill. Story 3. The Face in the Window. This happened during my junior year of high school, in a small town just outside Boston, Massachusetts. My friends and I decided to have a sleepover at my friend Mia's house. Her parents were out of town for the weekend, leaving us alone in the sprawling Victorian-style home. Her older brother's empty room, untouched for months, became our hangout for the night. The house was classic Victorian. Tall ceilings, creaky hardwood floors, and enormous windows that looked out over the backyard. Mia had one strict rule: never look out the windows at night. Naturally, we all laughed and promised we wouldn't, and immediately ignored it. We spent the evening watching movies, eating snacks, and scrolling TikTok videos on our phones. The clock struck 1 a.m., and the house was silent, except for the occasional groan of the old floorboards. Mia suggested we tell scary stories, and I began one about a girl who mysteriously vanished from her room. Mid-story, something caught the corner of my eye. A face, pale and smudged, with hollow black eyes, appeared at the large window in Mia's room, staring directly at us. My stomach dropped. It didn't blink. It didn't move. It just watched, silently. I ran to the window, thinking it was some prank, maybe a neighbor or a reflection, but the backyard was empty. Streetlights from the quiet suburban street didn't reach this side of the yard, and every other window was drawn shut. Seconds later, the face vanished. Relief was short-lived. A soft, deliberate knock echoed against the glass. We screamed and huddled together. The knocking continued, slow and rhythmic, as if something or someone was testing the barrier between us and the outside. Mia's dog, who had been sleeping quietly in the corner, suddenly barked and ran to the far side of the room, growling ferociously at the same window. Heart racing, we grabbed our blankets and fled to the living room, staying there until Mia's parents returned early that morning. When we told them what happened, Mia's dad looked uneasy. Later, he confided that the previous owner's daughter had disappeared mysteriously. The house had remained empty for months before Mia's family moved in, and neighbors occasionally reported seeing a pale, ghostly face at the windows late at night. Since that night, none of us could sleep near windows without feeling watched. The hollow eyes haunted our dreams for years, a chilling reminder that some things shouldn't be seen, especially in the quiet suburbs of America. Story 4. The Locked Attic. This happened during my senior year of high school. In a small town in Ohio, my friend Sarah had invited me and 2 other friends over for a sleepover at her family's old farmhouse. The house had been in her family for generations, a sprawling, creaky structure with narrow hallways, dark corners, and the kind of architecture that felt both charming and unsettling. It was perfect for a night of scares. Before settling into her bedroom for the night, we explored the house. The thing that immediately caught our attention was the attic door. Old, wooden, and secured with a rusty padlock, it sat at the top of a narrow staircase, almost daring us to open it. Sarah's older brother, grinning, warned, "Don't even think about it. The attic's off-limits. Grandpa's old junk is in there, and some say it's haunted." Naturally, this made it irresistible. After dinner, we gathered in Sarah's bedroom with snacks and blankets, telling ghost stories to pass the time. The house groaned as wind rattled the shutters outside, and every floorboard seemed to echo our laughter. Then came the first sound, a soft, scratching, deliberate, and slow, coming from above. At first, I tried to rationalize it. "Probably just a raccoon or something," I said, though my voice trembled. Then the sound changed. It became a whisper, low, hollow, and impossibly close. "Let me out." We froze. The rusty padlock rattled violently, though no one had touched it. My friends laughed nervously, thinking it was Sarah messing with us, but I wasn't so sure. Curiosity, or maybe foolish bravery, got the better of Sarah. She unlocked the padlock with a key her dad kept hidden, and slowly opened the attic door. Pitch blackness spilled into the room. Dust hung thick in the air, and the attic was filled with old furniture, boxes, and decades of forgotten belongings. Nothing moved, nothing was there. Then, we heard it, a soft thud behind us. We spun around. At the bottom of the attic stairs, barely visible in the dim light, stood a small, shadowy figure. Its face was obscured, but it emitted a low, guttural moan that made my blood run cold. We screamed, bolted out of the room, and grabbed our blankets and sleeping bags. But the noises didn't stop. Scratching and moaning followed us all the way down the stairs. By the time we reached the living room, we huddled together, lights blazing, too terrified to move or speak. The next morning, Sarah's parents were confused. The attic looked undisturbed, boxes and furniture exactly as they had always been. No figure, no noise, nothing, except for the old padlock, covered in deep scratches, as if something had tried desperately to escape. Sarah later admitted she never went into that attic alone again. Even now, she won't let anyone stay in her room after dark. And every time I drive past that farmhouse in the Ohio countryside, I can't help but glance at the attic window and feel that same cold shiver run down my spine. Story 5. The phone call in the middle of the night. This happened during my sophomore year of college, in a small apartment complex on the north side of Chicago, Illinois. My roommates, Emma and Claire, and I decided to have a sleepover to celebrate surviving midterms. The evening was filled with pizza boxes, scary movies, and too much soda. We laughed and joked, feeling invincible in our cozy little living room. Around 1:30 a.m., the apartment was quiet, except for the low hum of the fridge and the occasional distant siren from the city streets. We were sprawled across the living room floor when my phone rang. Strange, the number was unknown. I hesitated, then answered cautiously. A low, raspy voice whispered through the speaker, "Don't sleep, she's watching." I froze. My hands shook. "Who is this?" I asked, trying to stay calm. Silence, except for heavy, ragged breathing. Then, a click. The call ended. We laughed nervously, telling ourselves it was a prank by some bored friend in the dorm building. But moments later, Claire's phone rang. Same unknown number, same whisper. My heart was pounding. I grabbed the apartment's floor plan from the wall, the kind landlords often leave in Chicago apartments, and realized something terrifying. The voice wasn't random. It seemed to know exactly where we were. Suddenly, the lights flickered. The TV turned on by itself, casting static across the room. From the hallway, we heard slow, deliberate footsteps approaching, echoing on the old laminate floors. Emma grabbed a baseball bat. Claire dove under a blanket, and I froze, listening to every creak and groan. Then, all the phones rang at once. The whisper came again, louder this time, right behind you. We screamed and bolted to the front door, not caring about shoes, coats, or even forgetting to grab our bags. The city outside was eerily quiet as we ran across the street to a 24-hour diner, shaking, calling the police, and refusing to look back. Officers arrived shortly after and checked the apartment. Nothing. No signs of forced entry. No one hiding, no explanation. The apartment seemed normal, but none of us could shake the feeling that something had been there with us that night. We moved out a week later. None of us ever returned after dark. Even now, years later, whenever I get a call from an unknown number late at night, my heart races. I can't help but wonder, is that raspy voice waiting for me again, listening from the shadows of some Chicago apartment building?